Saint, 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 Saint. Yeah, hello. What's good, everybody? It's your boy Romanpuss here with the one and only V2 Uta guide. Now, we're going to be going over a bunch of stuff from her stat build recommendations, her medal recommendations, to her pros or cons, who she counters, and who counters her. So let's dive in and let's get into it real quick. So first things first is going to be the stat spread and how I feel about her. Now, you can do a lot of damage. Your heals are based off of just hitting enemies, so if you really want to, you can just get away with full HP and full defense if you want to run that. For those of you that don't know, I am going to skip over the traits and the skills. You can just go and read those wherever, whenever. You can look at the locked character, you can look at her current banner. That is available. So if you don't know what she does, I would strongly recommend reading that before you go through this guide, so you can have an idea of what I'm talking about specifically, because I'm going to be referencing her traits, but not directly going over them. Now, stat recommendations. I generally, for me, my personal preference is attack and defense. She has a large defense, and you do want to be able to have some attacks, so you can actually wail on some people. So you do have that 50% damage increase in order to kill people when they are singe affected, so that will help you destroy a lot of enemies. Now, if you really want to, you can go full HP defense. That's a personal preference. I really think that's up to you. I think both are completely viable. She honestly feels pretty difficult to kill with full attack defense, and honestly the only way she's killed is if she has ignored damage reduction. So really, having the full HP defense isn't going to truly help you that much. It will, but not crazy amounts, especially since there's so much percentage damage in the game now. So things like King can still actually hit you for your 40% HP. So you might as well just have a little attack back so you can actually do damage to him and actually kind of kill him back, honestly, and heal yourself back up from hitting him all the time. So overall, would recommend full attack defense. I will get into the medal recommendations at the very end, so see the tags on the video for if you want to just skip right to that. Now, next is going to be her character pros. What makes her good? What makes her strong? Why is she so viable? Many people honestly call her mid right away. I think that's just honestly haters. It's just people seeing something not perform absolutely perfectly. But what's her major pros and why do I think she's actually so insane? I honestly think she's definitely like top 5 units in the game at this moment. So that is definitely, she goes crazy. Now, first things first is she's extremely tanky. She has so much damage reduction going for her. She does have some defense buffs when she's status affected, and it actually goes a long way. Like, she's the only way you can actually really chunk her is if you have ignored damage reduction. So she has that going for her. Next is going to be her immunity to status effects. Now, mind you, after she procs Top Musica, how do you proc Top Musica? You have to land your skill 1 counter. You have to land it. You can't just like press it. You have to land it. Someone has to hit you in order for you to become extremely tanky and immune to status effects. So this actually goes a long way. The immunity to status effects is actually one of the major things that all defenders need. So that's actually a really big thing. So next up is you have really good damage against others. You have plus 50% damage increase to people that are singe affected, so you can honestly fight them back. Your skill 2 inflect singe and your triple, like when you 1, 2, 3 on your basic attack, your third basic attack has a 50% chance to singe effect. So you could potentially destroy them right then and there from that. Yeah, you honestly can wipe out most people. The only thing that really hurts you is people who are immune to status effects themselves. So be sure to watch out for certain green attacker units. Next up is the Top Musica. This thing never disappears. It's unkillable, so it will always be on the map the entire game until you switch its place. So you can leave this thing on a map, and honestly, it's almost like you have an extra teammate. It's like an extra half a teammate. Honestly, potentially it's better than some of your teammates that are out there. It will sit there and occasionally attack. I have to do the exact countdown on it, but it will attack roughly every probably 8 to 10 seconds. It doesn't attack very quickly. It actually takes quite a long time. And it will knock back the enemy off the flag. Now, it'll hit a few times, and if you have attack built, it'll actually do a good chunk of damage. So you can use that as like an extra defense. And honestly, he sits there and helps you. So if you get knocked back off the flag, because you're not immune to knockback, if you get knocked back off the flag, it will... Honestly, it's saved me so many times and has protected my flag that I'm actually trying to sit on and the whole time. All right, next up, I'm going to go over her character cons. What makes her not great? Well, first things first is she's basically half a character without her Top Musica. So if she goes the whole game without being able to get her counter off, like if the enemy plays it really well and does not proc her counter, she's actually not very difficult to kill. And you can actually fight her fairly easily, especially if you're immune to status effects. So one thing to keep in mind, Charlotte Cracker can actually kind of bump her. Anyone who has immune to status or damage reduction, has a skill that ignores damage reduction, can do a lot to her and actually really hit her hard. So counters can be tricky. I honestly myself am not the greatest counter user, so that you'll catch me many times where I just don't proc my counter very easily, and people will honestly try and bait your counter out. So just be careful of that when you're using her, because you need to hit that, and then you can kind of go ham from there. Next up is when people like who ignore damage reduction. I kind of already mentioned this. Is so like Charlotte Cracker. There is Monster Chopper. You probably don't have to worry about him because I don't think anyone plays him. There's Film Red Shanks. There is a few. I think there's a couple other abilities that ignore damage reduction. Just be careful of them. Oh, Claw. Claw is skill 2. Watch out for that thing as well, because that thing's a runner and he's trying to sit there and take the flag. So just be careful of people who have ignore damage reduction skills. This does kind of require you knowing a lot about certain characters around the game, so I would try and read through different characters' traits just so you know what you have to watch out for as your character, because you kind of have to know what you can do and you have to know what the enemy can do as well. Then the next thing, and like I kind of already touched on this as well, is counters can be tricky. Enemies will sit there and try and fake a basic attack, or fake fake like they're gonna go in, or fake they'll pretend like they're hitting and then they'll just start walking away, and then like you just never know. And honestly, it's a player-by-player basis, so it can be very tricky. Your best bet is to go into a cluster of a fight and do like if there's multiple enemies, your allies, and the enemies all in a fight, you can just dive in and hopefully just get caught by one of the abilities. Since you won't take damage from proccing your counter, it'll keep you protected, and then you can get your counter off, and then you're good to go and kind of do whatever else you need to do from there. So that's honestly one of the best ways to do that. If you're in a 1v1, just be careful. Honestly, I think starting out attacking is one of the better bets, and then eventually the enemy will kind of trip up, and then you just got to get that counter for the right moment. So try and be patient, try and hold it. It's my best piece of advice I can give you. Next up is who is Uta strong against? Honestly, I think most of the red units. So King, finally we have a defender who can actually kind of stop King from doing the King things. She can charge the flag while enemies are on it. This is actually the first defender who's not an EX who can actually do this. It is phenomenal, and I'm so happy we have something that can charge flags while the enemy's still on it, because honestly every defender should actually have this trait, but it is what it is and I can't do anything about it. So anyways, you can defend against King, you can defend against Red. Big Mom is very easy to fight. You can honestly fight her and honestly kill her if she's trying to take the flag from you relatively easily. So keep that in mind. Most red units you're actually pretty fine against. I can't think of any red units specifically in the meta at the moment who will destroy you. No, you're just too tanky, so you should be fine. Other than that, just watch out for certain green units, but you are definitely strong against your own blue units for the most part. Luffy, you should be decent against. Just watch out for, honestly, EX Luffy might be somewhat dangerous. That could be potentially harmful, as he does have raw damage, but you are immune to status effects, so you shouldn't have too much trouble with him. Now, the next thing is anyone not immune to status effects or has like reduced status effects, like reduction. So things like Charlotte Cracker, I'll kind of get into counters here in a second, but just what things like Ulti is like has the reduction to status effects. I don't think you have to worry too much about her, but people like that, or Film Red Shanks, you got to watch out for his inability to be status affected. Things like that can actually F you up, especially since you don't have the Singe effect, and that's where most of your damage comes from. Next up, let's talk about the Uta Counters. Honestly, I've mentioned this, actually a few of them already. You have Charlotte Cracker, you have Film Red Shanks. They have the abilities to sit, wail, and one-shot you. Roger can put a hurting on you, but I don't think he'll be too much trouble because you can kind of fight back against Roger pretty decently. He can definitely kill you, but you can kill him easily. So a lot of her matchups are actually pretty like skill oriented, especially if you do not have the counter off. That's where you're the most vulnerable, so you have to really be careful there. But once you have top Musica up, then you should actually be fine. You should be fairly safe and actually good to go from there. So counters, Film Red Shanks is first off. Roger can hurt, so watch out for him. That combo starter will smack you and hit you pretty hard. Charlotte Cracker, watch out for that skill 1. Other than that, you should be able to fight him fairly easily. And then Claws, skill 2, Kid Law, dual unit. You got to watch out for the Law skill 2 on that because it does ignore damage reduction. So all these people have items like that and their abilities that will chunk you for a good like 70 to 90% of your HP, depending on how your support versus their support matches up and whatnot. So, all right, next up, let's move into medal recommendations for Uta. Honestly, I like her because you can go the generic defender sets. My honestly number one, I think this one it might be the best on her, but you could also go skill 2 oriented as well. The Defender Anel set. It does give you damage reduction on your flag. You get the 5% damage reduction on your flag here. You get the Kami medal that gives you 5% damage reduction. You get the Mamaragan medal if you have this with 5% damage reduction. All of these medals you can get. Actually, the Kami medal you can't, but you can replace that with the Cola Shot medal, which is pretty solid as well. And then when your HP is above 70%, which you actually stay pretty healthy, pretty easily, you get an extra 30% cooldown on your counter. But in fairness, your skill 2 is where your damage is going to come from. Your skill 1 is what's going to help you get tanky. So really, you just need to proc your skill 1 time for the most part. But the rest of it, you can just use it as a get out of jail free card if you need to protect yourself from getting one shot. So you can use that counter if you see an ability coming and you don't have a dodge up. Other than that, I honestly think this set is my go-to and my favorite one so far is the Barto Club medal set. If you have this old Barto medal, this barrier medal, gives you the when your allies are KO'd, you get skill 2 cooldown by 6%. Phenomenal. You get when you're around your treasure, you get skill 2 cooldown by 13%. Because she does have kind of longer cooldowns, so things to watch out for. And the Haji Rudon medal, honestly, if we ever get another Bartolomeo, this set will actually be phenomenal. But as of right now, provided it's defender oriented, but this one gives you 3% damage reduction. And on top of that, when you're alone on your flag, you do have the damage reduction when you have allies not near you. So it's an extra 10% total. In total, you get 13% damage reduction, as well as your skill 2 cooldowns for 13% plus however many times your allies die while you're on the flag. So this one actually really helps me keep my skill 2 up. I can keep fighting, I can keep killing. I honestly really enjoy this set for defenders. It goes a very, very long way. So this one's probably my #1 recommendation. But other than that, the Enel set's probably easier to get, especially if you're a newer player. I would definitely go for the Enel set. You can kind of choose whether you start with Croco, Mihawk, or Enel. Probably go Enel so you can get that medal right off the bat. And then the second one you can get from the Cola Shop. So then all you have left is one more medal to get that is Enel oriented. And honestly, that's probably one of the best things for you. But if you get blue Enel or summon him somehow, some way, then definitely go with that. And so unfortunately, there's not too many easy ways to get that. If you are an older player, you can go. I've seen people running the generic damage reduction set. This one gives you up to 21% damage reduction, so this is an option as well. Under the right criteria, you could go this with the Sugar medal. What is this? Hobby medal. Gives you 3% damage reduction on your flag. The Buffalo one gives you another 3%, and then the Cortazon one gives you 5%. And then you have the Don Quixote family. When your allies are not near you, get an extra 10%. So good chunk of damage reduction going from that medal set. The one thing about that one is you don't get the exact tags on that. Like, you only get 14% on your skill 1 there. You do get the dodge, and then I think you only have 14% on your skill 2 too. Or you just don't even have skill 2. My god, you don't even have skill 2. So yeah, I probably wouldn't even run that. So be careful of that. One thing to watch out for, but you will be super tanky. Anyways, that is my overall Film Red V2 Uta guide. I hope this was helpful. I hope you guys found this useful for y'all. And I wanted to keep it short and quick and concise so y'all could actually do it and keep up on it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed a little bit of gameplay to go along with it. And let me know what you guys think of her down below. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns, or if you have any better medal recommendations, you can always check out my Discord or ask questions in there as well. I will be sure to pin and kind of take care of the comments and see if there's any other medal suggestions that I have missed. But overall, be sure to check out my Twitch, Twitter, Discord, and Reddit. Be sure to join and follow those. I would appreciate it. But that's all I have for you guys. I hope you guys have a wonderful night, morning, evening. I'm your boy Romanpuss, and I'm going to be taking off. Yeah, peace, beautiful people.